At the start of film, we see a girl named Jenny. Her best friend was taking her out on a special place. And that place was Eden Lake. The name of her best friend was Steve. They wanted to spend some time together. And Steve was about to propose her there. As the night prevails, they reach at the town. Eden Lake was near to that town. They stay there to spend the night. In the morning they start their journey and reach to the Eden Lake. That lake was located very far from the main road and between the forest. After passing through a big forest, they reach to the lake. There they find a boy named Adam. Jenny tries to talk to him but he doesn't answer any question of her. That's why they move from there. They were spending their day at the bench of lake. But some local boys reach there and irritate Adam, who then moves from there. Jenny and Steve were witnessing all this. Jenny was about to sleep that a dog barks at her. Jenny gets scared and becomes uneasy. That dog belonged to those guys? We come to know about this when they call their dog back. As Steve goes for swimming, that dog again barks at Jenny. Steve didn't like this act of those boys. That's why he goes to them. But those guys don't listen to him. Instead they make fun of them. That's why Steve comes back without arguing with them. Actually they were 6 friends. One of them was Brad and others were his friends. Brad's female friend was also there. They were less aged guys, but were very ill-mannered and rude. Brad was their leader. When Steve was asleep, they were looking Jenny with weird eyes. But Jenny doesn't bother them. In fact, she tries to ignore them. She doesn't tell this to Steve. Those guys then try to move from there. But while going they make fun of them and irritate them. In order to spend night, Steve tries to arrange tent while Jenny collects the woods for fire. Jenny listens to a weird voice from bushes. But she doesn't find anyone there upon looking. They spend the whole night there but Jenny thought as someone was noticing them throughout. When they wake up in the morning, they find that all of their food spoiled. Then they decide to go back to the town for breakfast. But as Steve tries to start the car, he notices that tire got punctured. Because someone had put broken glass bottle beneath the tire. No one other but those guys had done this to them. Steve changes the tire. And they reach to the town where they see those guys again. Steve tries to follow them but they escape from there to save themselves. They both reach to a shop and take the breakfast. Steve asks the shop owner about those guys and says they are very ill-mannered. But shop owner becomes anxious at him. Then they both leave the place. When they were going from there, Steve sees the cycles of those guys. Steve goes into that house in order to catch them. But no one was there. The owner of the house then appears. Then Steve moves to the upper portion to hide from him. That house belonged to Brad. Steve goes into the Brad's room. Then his father comes there. Steve was about to get caught. That's why he comes down from the window. Steve comes into the car and asks Jenny to run the car fast. Then they both escape from there and come back to the lake. But Jenny was unable to find her handbag containing their mobile phones and car keys. Steve gets worried because of this and he comes back to his car. But finds that their car was not present there. In fact, it was stolen. They get scared and try to walk towards town. But someone tries to hit them by their own car from the front. But they survive. We see that their car was taken up by those guys. And Brad was driving the car. Then they move from there on their car. They both then again start walking but night prevails. Steve listens to those guys from somewhere. That's why they follow them? There they find those guys. Steve asks for his car from them. Brad says that we don't have your car. Steve asks for the remaining things, i.e. handbag. Brad says that we don't have anything. Jenny notices that they were very ill-mannered. They will not return anything. So she asks Steve to go back. Steve doesn't listen to him. Then Steve's phone rings in Brad's pocket. Steve moves forward to take back his phone. But Brad holds him and his friend takes out knife to kill him. They ask their dog to attack them. During snatching, Steve unconsciously stabs the dog with knife. Their dog dies at the spot. They were in worse situation. So they had to run. They take the car's key and start running. Luckily they find the car. But those children were not letting them. They try to follow them. In a hurry their car gets trapped in a place. All the children try to break their car. But somehow Steve moves the car from there. Front screen was damaged so he could barely see. Their car hits into the tree. Jenny was saved but Steve was trapped. Those children were still following them. Steve sends Jenny to get help from somewhere. But as Jenny comes out, all the children's reach there. So Jenny had to hide now. Then they all head towards the car. In the morning, Jenny comes near her car but finds that Steve was not present there. Jenny finds some blood droplets. So she tries to follow them. After some time, Jenny finds all those children's including Steve. She finds Steve in a very pity condition. He was tied badly. They had tied to him with laser wire. And Brad was torturing him badly. One of his friends to stop him but he warns him. Brad gives the knife to his friend and asks him to stab on his body. But in order to save his life, his friend does the same. Then Brad asks his friend to stab on his body one by one. And Brad's female friend was recording all this in her mobile phone. Everyone stabs him at different parts of his body. Someone stabs him in mouth. This was very painful but Steve was bearing this very painfully. Jenny was witnessing all this. She connects her mobile Bluetooth with Steve's. Jenny calls the police but Brad finds it. They start finding Jenny. When they all move from there, Steve tries to free himself and runs away from there. They all were following Jenny and she was escaping from them. Jenny finds a cabin there. She finds a walkie-talkie there. But she breaks it in hassle. All those boys reach there and Jenny had to hide from them. They try to find her but he receives a call from his friend who tells him that Steve has run away. Then they move to find Steve who tries to pick first aid box from the car. He tries to open the car's trunk. Security alarm gets activated and everyone knows his location. In order to save his life he runs from there and finds Jenny on his way. She takes him to the cabin and try to put bandages on his wounds but they were too deep. And his blood was shedding. He was about to die. Jenny says that I will not let anything happen to you. She puts her hand on his pocket. Jenny finds the ring which he kept to propose her. Jenny gets upset because Steve was unable to propose her now. Brad and his friend reach there. They find no one inside the cabin. Because Jenny kept Steve inside water under the cabin. Steve gets unconscious but Jenny still holds him. When all the boys move from there, Jenny comes out with Steve. She lays him down and thinks that his condition is worst. And if he wouldn't get help, he would die. Jenny goes by herself to find help. Jenny finds an electricity tower. She follows the tower and heads forward. She gets wounded as something notchy gets into her foot. She was under a lot of pain and she cries. Brad listens her cry. And now they were heading towards her. Jenny somehow manages to hide herself. She tries to take out that notchy thing from her feet which was not going out. Then she moves that thing to the other side of her foot and takes it out. She then crawls forward and finds Adam whom they met at the start of movie. Jenny asks her the way out who guides her and take her from there. But Adam stops at one place and Jenny asks his mobile from him. But Jenny snatches his mobile. Brad and his remaining friends reach there. Adam had called that gang there by message. They hit Jenny who becomes unconscious. When she comes into senses she finds herself tied to a tree. They had put woods across her. When she turns back she finds Steve who had died. Brad had killed him and now they were about to burn them. They put petrol along all sides and Brad's female friend was recording all this. Brad forces Adam to bulge the fire. Then Adam burns Steve. Jenny was seeing all this from her eyes. She requests them not to do this. But they were enjoying all this. Jenny's rope also gets fire. She gets free from there and escapes after finding the opportunity. Brad warns Jenny that if she doesn't come back he would burn Adam's also. Jenny sobs after listening him. But he had burned Adam before. She runs away from there and reaches the place where map of forest was displayed. She breaks the glass and takes out the map. She listens to someone's voice. She hides herself in a dustbin in which garbage of months was lying with bad smell. As she had to save her life she sits there silently. She had torn a part of her shirt. And she had made a weapon by fitting a glass inside that. She was standing there and Brad's friend comes there. She stabs that in his neck and he dies. They find the dead body of their friend there. One of his friend tries to escape but Brad stops him. When he doesn't listen to him, Brad beats him to death. His female friend escapes from there. Jenny then comes out of forest. Jenny finds a car there and asks for help. He then puts Jenny into his car. But he was taking car back to the forest as he came there to find someone. Jenny asks him to move the car back but he brings her to the same place. She somehow takes the car and moves from there where she sees Brad's female friend. As she was hatred with revenge. She doesn't stops the car and hits her badly. She moves forward to a place where a party was being carried out. She seeks help from there. But she gets unconscious. When she wakes up she finds herself and many people. And the problem here was that house belonged to Brad. Her mother receives a call from Brad who tells that his friends were killed by a girl. And she has escaped. Jenny asks them to bring ambulance but they don't listen to her. She had known that they would do very bad to her soon. She goes into the washroom and locks herself. They break the door and catch her. She sees Brad there. Jenny tries to explain them everything. And tells them about Brad but no one was willing to believe her. Then they all take her to bathroom. Jenny was shouting and crying. And Brad deletes everything from his mobile. Brad gets no harm even doing such bad. And he was saved. But many people died because of him. Innocent people died in this. And the movie ends her on sad note.